and we said, you can do that for the first, I think we said first 15 hours of the apprenticeship classroom training, which is not much, but the rest of it has got to articulate into some sort of degree program or certificate program, and so all of them do.
Hi, Dave Wallace, Massachusetts. This is for Janet and Wes. You both attended action clinics, and I guess the question from me and probably a lot of people in the audience is, who was the driving force to put this all together when you left those conferences and to get the thing actually moving?
Has to be you. Don't think you can go back and say to someone who didn't attend, I've got a great idea, you need to lead the charge.
I understand
Doesn't work that way.
I know, and I'm not just talking about me individually. I'm saying, was there someone that championed it and pushed it through? Typically, I see it's at the head of an agency that has that ability, or a secretary or somebody. Was there someone in particular in each case where they championed it?
Well, our group looked around the table and said, you're chairman of the state system. We think you're the one to do that. And it goes along with your point. You do have to have at least somebody in a position where they can influence outcomes and those types of things. But were it not for a lot of people at the clinic who all said, we're committed to move in this direction, my efforts to push this at the state level as chairman wouldn't have been nearly as successful. But because I could go back and point to a cadre of players who all said, we want to do this, it was an easier sell to the rest of the council, to the governor, and everyone else who had to buy in. But you're going to have to find a champion, in my opinion, out of those of you attending this event from your own ranks who are going to have to go back and lead it with everybody's help.
No, and I agree with Wes, because that's what we did. The other thing, and I did end up being the chair to go back and take this home, is get a commitment from everybody there to bring one other person in for a first meeting back in Michigan. And that's how we began to form and expand the action team. So you have to have the commitment, and then, just someone to lead it on.
Good morning. Thank you again for the wealth of information that you provided. Part of my question, I think, was answered in the couple questions ahead of what was asked, but I wanted to get some specific answer to this part of it, and it relates to what Dr. Torrey and Wes said in relation to the 4-year degree not being, we have oversold the American dream, I think was what Dr. Torrey said. The fact of the matter is that in this time of more competition for funds among 4-year degree offerers, they're still actively purveying that dream through advertisement and through television ads and all of the other ways. Yet I was not certain that I picked up from the presentations that there was a strategy to bring the 4-year institutions to the table. I heard technical colleges and community colleges, but the 4-year institutions to the table so that they too recognize that the apprenticeship is part of their destiny, as it were. And I saw the very nice graphic that Ms. Howard gave about all hands on board. But I'm wondering, did you have a 4-year or the 4-year colleges represented there at that table? And if so, what strategies did you adopt in order to bring the 4-year colleges on board?
We actually do have a 4-year college represented. Ferris State University in Michigan is unique that it grants the associate degree as well as a 4-year and graduate degrees. So they have really been out forward front in so many ways. They're a part of this action team, and the president there has actually had meetings with some of our other 4-year college presidents to talk about how to work with the community colleges and themselves as a part of this whole apprenticeship effort. So that's something that's ongoing, not fully developed, but we do have some of them who are really, seriously looking at it and accepting credits for that training.
I'd give you this perspective. I appointed a relatively small committee to oversee this, but one of the key members of it is a member of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. In Texas, there are 3 key state agencies. The Coordinating Board oversees all of our universities, 4-year colleges. In fact, if the University of Texas at Austin wants to launch a new degree program, the Coordinating Board has to actually approve it. We have the Texas Education Agency that oversees public education, and the Texas Workforce Commission that primarily administers the Department of Labor funding. All 3 are represented at high levels on this committee, and they're there for a very specific purpose. We said even though we don't have a role for the 4-year universities to play as we implement these pilot programs, the comment made about what happens when a community health worker then wants to aspire to move on. Well, that community health worker has to be seen as a starting point for people who will hopefully ultimately move into the community college and our 4-year university systems, so that all of that is seen as a seamless opportunity to bring people from perhaps unemployment into the workforce, or even the dropouts from high school into the workforce, but ultimately back into the education system. So they're all there to help us think about what we're going to do longer term as these new apprenticeable occupations mature. And that's going to be a part of our second 6-year plan. Those university representatives, those community college representatives, and the agency representatives understand this is a part of a multi-year process in Texas to build a seamless system, and they're going to have to think about their role when the time comes that we look to them for involvement.
I appreciate the question, and I'll be very blunt. In South Carolina, we're not quite there yet. We still have some of our higher ed institutions, 4-year, that will tell you in a public meeting that their job is not to get people jobs. Their job is to teach people to think. My response is always, I hope that's not mutually exclusive. But I will tell you that we have tried to bring them on board. We have tried to get them to the table. And we've made a couple of inroads that I'll just use as examples because I think this will mushroom. I'm hoping it will. But we actually talked to the University of South Carolina system. They were having issues with a lot of turnover with their hourly workers, okay, their custodial workers, their food service workers, their transportation folks. So we talked them into building some apprenticeships. And we are not able to pay with WIA money for other state agencies to train, but what we were able to do is provide some supportive services. So we work keys assessed all those folks, we provide transportation to and from class, we provide child care, et cetera, et cetera. And that USC model, they currently have built one for custodial, for food service, and for the transportation, the little Cocky Express, we're the Gamecocks. We've actually built registered apprenticeships around those 3 things, and we're hoping that once USC perfects that and really gets the model, they want to keep their workers and they want to grow them into, food service managers, et cetera. So we hope that once they do that, it'll go statewide in all the other colleges and universities.
Bill Mascione, I have a question that Peggy had your numbers increased exponentially, and I'm sure a lot of the stakeholders in apprenticeship training can do the same, but have any of the states, and this would include Wes and Janet, actually gone out of their way to try to give preference to apprenticeship languages within the state, for whether it's bidding contracts, to help put the people to work once they come out of an apprenticeship? Because usually the biggest part of the people dropping out are lack of work, and is there anything that anybody's really done to move that forward?
Let me just say really quickly, as you probably know, we just landed Boeing. We've just landed a couple other really large advanced manufacturers. And so a number of the apprenticeships that we had in the works are feeding into those. It's been perfect for us because there's a lot of employment in those industries right now. I'm sure in some of our other industries, it's not going to be as productive, but for the ones that we've really been concentrating on, we have plenty of jobs available right now.
Okay, we have time for one more question, right over here.
Considering that a lot of apprenticeship programs run for 4 years, Michigan, you're giving out $3,000 for related technical instruction. Are you doing that? How are you managing that? Are you using WIA funds for that?
We are using whatever funding source an individual may be eligible for. It's up to $5,000 per year for 2 years. For those individuals that are TAA eligible, Trade Assistant Adjustment Act eligible, those funds are being used in that manner. For those who are WIA eligible, they're being used. For some of our public assistance recipients, we're using the TANF funding. So it depends on what the individual is eligible for, and we are doing that, you know, in alignment with other funds available to them. So for those who may also get support for Pell Grant, then we don't have to use a full $5,000 to supplement them for a year, and that allows, you know, funds to be leveraged and to stretch further.
So they can be used over a multiple number of years,
Yes.
those funds?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give another round of applause to the panel.
What a great panel. What an excellent panel. Thank you, Laura, Peggy, Wes, Janet. And just a reminder, I know there are a lot of other questions out there, and you will have an opportunity to invite our 3 panelists in to your state team meeting if you want them to elaborate on any things that they mentioned, any questions that you might have. Okay.